Alright, quick video just on how to prep some new panels. First, with the metal panels, we always want to do some 320 to 400 grit. We're going to seal it so we can go with a heavier sandpaper. Plastics, however, we always want to stick with the 800 grit sandpaper. A lot finer sandpaper just because plastic seems to tear up a lot easier and it's a lot easier to sand through. So as long as they're sealed, just wiping them down with some 800 and gray Scotch pad and you're good to go. Now if it's not sealed, there's some other steps that you'll have to add into there because you want to put some plastic stick or plastic adhesion promoter down. Then you'll notice next step, as soon as they're sanded, get them right in the booth, wiping them down good with the grease and wax remover, just that fine and clean water-based degreaser. Come back right in, wiping them down with a tack rag, getting all the lint and the dirt off, trying to clean it up the best that we can. That's the most important things when we're coming down to prepping a new panel, is just making sure that it's sanded. We take off that glossy edge to it, and then making sure it's good and clean when it's in the paint booth. So when we go in and get ready to paint it, everything's all ready to go for the painter. All he's really got to do is maybe do one final wipe down, and then he can go straight into putting his sealer and his color on, which is what you'll see next. Is I'm going to go through the whole process of putting the sealer on. This bumper is a white bumper, so I throw a white sealer on it. It's a black fender, so I end up putting some black sealer down on it. The bumper is also a tri-coat, so you'll notice that as I'm painting it, I'll put a white base coat down, and then I come back over it and do a pearl base coat on it as well. Those two processes in a tri-coat in this particular variant, just to kind of give you an idea of what it would look like. And then you'll be able to see in the last step of the process, going through and putting the two coats of clear over the top. Couple of last little pointers as you're watching the end of the video. The biggest thing with prepping for me is that people just tend not to understand that it's kind of like building a house, that if the base or the foundation isn't good, then the rest of the house is going to crumble around it. Same thing with when we're prepping especially a new panel. If there's finger scratches in it, if it's not sanded properly, or we don't use a good sealer or forget to do a step, it can ruin the whole process. And even though our finished process might look great and everything turns out good, later on down the road it flakes or has any other kind of problems, you just basically threw all that money and time right out the door. So that's the biggest thing for me is consistency, that those first two processes of sanding and cleaning the panel are so important and so crucial to make sure that everything looks consistent and nice and clean. Every bit is sanded, and you'll notice, especially on that fender, it showed up really nice that you could see everything was sanded to a point. Even around the edges, it kind of sanded through a little bit. But the biggest thing was that it was nice and consistent, that there wasn't any like lines or scratches in it that were inconsistent, but everything looked nice and even. That's why it's important to use things like blocks and a DA sander. That way you can avoid getting finger marks and different things like that will come back and cause you more problems and havoc later on in the process. But you'll notice doing those extra few little steps doesn't take a whole lot of time, but it ends up getting a lot better product, as well as you end up getting a better guarantee that everything's going to work out for the best.